What's going on, everybody? It's Adrian from over here at Pipe Dream Hookah, and today I've got a review for you guys that I've been putting off for kind of a long time because I don't know how comfortable I am reviewing this type of product. My co-host over at the Hookah Podcast, Matt Deason, has also expressed this issue, and that is the topic of reviewing coals. Coals can be a little bit difficult to review because, for the most part, if you've got a good coal, you don't even want to think about the fact that it's there. You put it on your tobacco, after they're lit, of course, and you smoke it, and the last thing on your mind is this a good coal? Because if it is, it's obviously not going to be on your mind. Now, I think I've come up with a pretty good set of criteria for reviewing a coal. At least, I hope they're good. You guys can be the judge of that. But here off screen, actually I got a second camera recording, so we're going high tech over here on Pipe Dream Hookah today. We have a burner and a timer. We're actually going to go ahead and time how long it takes these coals to light, because that's something people care about. This is an 1100 watt burner. Some of you might have something like an 800 watt burner. Some of you may have something as powerful as a 1500 watt burner. Whatever you've got, if it's got higher wattage, it's going to light quicker, and if it's got a lower wattage, it's going to take a longer time to light. Also, if you've got an aged coal burner like I do, it's actually going to take a while to get up to that max heat, which obviously is what we're going to cook our coals on. But we're going to take you through a few things first, including the light time for this. What I think I'll do is I'll shrink it down to picture-in-picture while I do the rest of the review, and then about halfway through, or however the hell I want to time it, we'll let you guys know exactly how long it takes these bad boys to get fully lit. So let's go ahead and switch over to the other camera, and then we'll go ahead and grab 3 of our prestige coconut coals, pop them on the burner, turn the burner all the way on, and probably get my $800 smartphone a little bit further away from the burner and start the timer. Alright, so now that we got the timer going, I'd like to go through some of the criteria that we're going to be using to judge how long or how good a coal is, I guess. I was about to say how long it takes to burn, and that's what we're judging in the picture-in-picture. Should be on the screen. I was trying to be snarky. I was going to do this thing where like, oh, I'm wearing my pajamas still, and like snap my fingers and I'm not wearing pajamas anymore, but I got this camera here, and you can see them probably in the picture-in-picture, unless I screwed the timing up, which in case you probably won't see them for another couple of minutes, because you know how time works. I'm going to change my clothes really quick. Alright, so that's actually way better. My microphone's pointing the wrong way. I hope this picks any audio up at all. But like I was saying, we're going to go through some of the criteria that we need to go over to decide whether a coal is worth purchasing or not. And it looks like the coals are almost ready to flip. I don't know if I should be like directly referring to the fact that I'm looking at the coals, since the time's going to probably be sped up on the picture-in-picture. We'll find out how awful it is after the editing process. But the criteria we're going to be judging our coals on is actually going to be light time, the scent of the coal. This is more of a minor thing, because if you're lighting up a coconut coal in your house, you're going to smell it. I guess we're just going to judge it on how extreme that scent actually is. We're going to be looking at the heat output, the ash content, burn time, as in how long will the coal last, durability, and that's kind of another one of those minor things. I just want to, and I've already done a little bit of testing on this, see if they'll crack while they're lighting, or if they fall off of the bowl, if they split immediately, or if they're going to be relatively durable. We're also going to go over the cut, so how precisely the coals are cut. And after this is over, if you guys find yourself wondering about anything else that I didn't go over in the video, in the comments drop it, because this is my first go at a coal review. I think that this is actually kind of more difficult than a lot of reviewers might think it is at first, because most of this stuff is just objective. There's really not a whole lot of subjective stuff going on. So intuitively you might think that makes it easier, but I think the ultimate question it boils down to is, do they work, don't they work, along with a few really, really minor little attributes that go into the coals. But we're going to take a swing at it right now. But before we do that, we need to flip our coals. Alright, so our coals have been flipped, and then they finished, and then I took them off, and then I put them on this bowl, transition cameras. Look at that, I've got 2 cameras going, it's like I'm actually Matt Deason. Okay, so what I've done is I've stonehenged all 3 coals on an alpaca medium Apache, and they're stonehenged because it's packed with, it's just completely mamoned by Tangiers. And for anyone who doesn't know about citrus flavors, Tangiers already is kind of hard on the lungs, and then citrus flavors are kind of hard on the throat. So I really don't want to burn myself here on camera. That would be embarrassing, which wouldn't be anything new for the channel, but I digress. So the first thing I would like to talk a little bit about when it comes to Prestige, these are actually the jumbo flats. I don't know if I've said that yet, but the thumbnail will show you, and the title of this video, which is probably like down there if you're looking on your mobile device or your computer. It's the jumbo flat. So let's get into the actual scent of the coals while they're on the burner. Now with most coals, you have all the stuff that's readily available on the market, like your titaniums, your cocoa naras, which don't buy those because they smell bad, and that's like the least of your worries when you're buying cocoa naras. But your cocoa earth stuff, everyone's really smoking quite a bit of. I think most of these coals have some kind of scent when you put them on the burner. And then you've got coals like Superior, which have like an insane, kind of a disgusting scent. It smells like you know when you run your garbage disposal in your sink and you just got done washing out like a lot of dishes and there was a lot of food chunks? Imagine the smell that comes out of that. That's what I think the Superior coconut coals smell like when they're on the burner. But a lot of people like those coals, so we won't go too far into that. But as far as the Prestige jumbo flats go, the scent is actually very, very minimal. I've been sitting here next to the burner, and this house has very poor ventilation. And I didn't really smell much of anything except for that latent kind of burning smell that you can expect from anything you're actually coming pretty close to lighting on fire. So I would say that the scent from these coals is actually pretty negligible. It's probably the closest coal to having no scent on the burner that I've come across so far. That's more of a minor attribute. I wouldn't really say to buy or pass on these based on that alone. Just something to keep in mind before moving into our next topic, which happens to be heat output. Ooh, before we get to our next topic, which is going to be the heat output, really quickly, for any of you who didn't see, the light time was just under 11 minutes. Now, my burner, like I said, is old and it takes a longer time to heat up to that full heat. So I would imagine if I let the burner stay on for a while, maybe 2 minutes, and I put the coals on, it would be right around the 8 to 9 minute mark. But that's the range you can expect for the heat up time on these. Now, if you have something like titanium flats, they heat a little bit. They come to the full cherry, I guess is what most people call it, much quicker than these do, and I think that's because these are actually a little bit heavier, which is a smaller topic. But real quick, I'll just let you guys know that these do weigh about 8 grams a piece, as opposed to titaniums, which is probably like one of the more accessible coals on the market. They weigh closer to 6 or 7 grams. And they are roughly the same size, so that seems very weird. It's a density thing. And when you have a denser coal, it's going to take longer for heat to move through it, therefore it's going to have a slightly longer heating time, and it's probably going to burn for longer, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. On to the actual next topic, which is heat output. Okay, so these coals have been stonehenged on here for probably like a good, 4 minutes since I've started talking, after I put the coals onto my bowl. And normally this would be plenty of time to heat Tangier, so I'm going to go ahead and smoke this a little bit. And I already know pretty much how these stack up to the other flats in the market in terms of where they stand in heat output. But let's go ahead and take a few pulls and see if 4 minutes was long enough to get this bowl ripping those Tangiers clouds. We all love to post videos of ourselves on Facebook, smoking them. Pull 1 was pretty good. I had to stop myself from coughing there because, again, this is Mamone and this is no Provost, so the heat's kind of doing whatever it wants. So the Provost, you can use 2 flats and you can really control the heat, but when you're not using one, you got to be a little careful, especially since I like the throat hit. So I've gotten my Tangiers to the point where I just pack it flush to the rim. I don't really underpack it at all. So this is going to be a little bit rough at first, but I'm planning on enjoying the session while I edit the bulk of this video, so there's that. But heat output. Now, I didn't get some type of a tool to measure exactly what temperature in Fahrenheit or Celsius that these are burning at, because that's information that most of you as regular consumers have no need for. It's too much information, in my opinion. What I can tell you is that these burn hotter than titanium flats, but not quite as hot as something like the Haze Cube coals, which are probably one of the hotter coals on the market. So it's kind of in the upper end of medium heat output, which makes it outstanding for your blondes that can take a lot of heat, like Messiah, Pure, you've got your Alfaker, all those brands can take a decent amount of heat. So these coals are pretty good for that. But for something like Tangiers, unless you're really versed in smoking Tangiers, I would recommend trying a lower heat coal at first, because when you're cooking Tangiers as hot as you can without actually burning it, it's pretty hard on your lungs. I'll take a few more pulls, show you the clouds we're working with, and then we'll move on to the next topic. And I just realized that I'm in not my studio, so these walls are white, which are the same color as the clouds you pull out of your hookah. So it's a little bit misleading, but these clouds are about an average size. In another 5 minutes, they will escalate to their full giant Tangiers. You're actually blowing clouds like the sky kind, like the, I don't know names of clouds, I'm not educated, but you know what I'm saying. Tangiers clouds, these are gonna make it. Next topic is going to be ash content. Okay, now as far as the ash content on these coals go, when I first got my Prestige Jumbo Flats, I was a little bit worried because I started to have the same issue that I had with the Superior Cocoa coals. And this was mostly in my head because I already had a really bad taste when I first got my Superior Cocos, which, by the way, I won't be doing a review on, but really quick for anyone who's wondering what my hot take is, I think they are bad coals. The heat output is actually very low. You have to use a lot more coal than you would for some brands to get it to perform the way that I personally like it to, so I'm not a big fan. Dr. Noob Sauce, another really awesome reviewer, just did a review on the green box, which is the low heat output. I don't know if they're marketing it that way, but that's what it is in case you're wondering. And the red box, which is probably going to be a higher heat output, go check that out because he has some good things to say. And a lot of people have actually said pretty good things about the Superior Cocos. So my opinion is, I don't think you should pick up the green box, but listen to some other reviewers because they tend to think that the green box of Superior Cocos actually performs pretty well. And these are people that I typically trust, so I think it just might be a opinion-based thing. It's a bit subjective. But these Prestige Jumbo Flats do not ash like the Superior Cocos. It looks like they do at first because they do get that film of white ash, as you can probably see if I still have my picture-in-picture and I edited this properly. They look like they're pretty coated in ash, and they are, but they do not ash nearly as much as Superiors. Now what I'll go ahead and do for you here is these have been going for about 11 minutes, and I'll go ahead and take this coal that you can see the closest, ash a little bit. There we go. Put it back up the way it was Stonehenged in the first place, and I knocked another coal down. But you can see that they have not actually ashed that much. The size hasn't changed all that much. Now normally I wouldn't do this because with these particular coals, the ashing isn't an issue. They get a small film of ash around them and they do ash more than your typical coal, but they do a good job at kind of mitigating some of the heat that comes out, which is one of the things that Superior Cocoa really advertised when they first started pushing their coals, and I don't like what happens when you let ash build up on those. It's different with these Jumbo Flats. I actually think that for Tangiers, it's really the saving grace, and what lets me smoke Tangiers with the Prestige Jumbo Flats is they are a higher heat output coal, but as long as you aren't ashing them like crazy, they'll never get to that point where they're going to char your bowl. Now, I will say that you shouldn't ash them too much because obviously when you ash a coal, you expose that inner cherry to the oxygen around it, and it's going to start to ash more quickly and deplete the life of your coals, so keep that in mind. But as far as the ash of the coals go, I would say it's a non-issue. You'll notice I'm not using number scores for all this stuff because I'm not going to judge this in the way that I judge hookah tobaccos and things like that, because I just can't see judging this on a 1 to 7 scale or even a 1 to 10 scale. It doesn't make sense. But at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you whether I like them or I don't, and maybe I'll put them up against some other coals that I like, and some of the other minor attributes that make them better or worse or different, but I'm not going to be doing a number scale. Okay, so I'm really glad that I caught that. I just did like an entire other topic, and my camera has a record time of 11 minutes and 36 seconds, so it cut out, but I think I caught it at just the right time, meaning that our next topic should be burn time. Now I'm just going to cut to the chase with this one because it's pretty simple. You get about an hour of burn time out of your Prestige Cocoa Flats, your Prestige Jumbo Flats. Now normally you would expect to get about 45 minutes from a given flat, say a titanium, which is a pretty good rate for a flat, especially using like 3 flats on a bowl, 45 minutes. So at about the 40-minute mark you set on your new coals, you get an hour and a half session, right? That makes perfect sense. But unfortunately, I really like 2-hour long sessions. So with these, what you can do is you can cook them up to about the 50-minute mark, put your new set of coals on, and then switch them out at just about the hour mark. Now, one little thing I will say about these is for some reason, I don't know why, or if it's these coals specifically, but when you hit that hour mark, there's no real gradient from it being like, oh, these are going pretty well, down to these are unsmokable. It kind of happens all at once when you hit that hour mark, because you need to ash your coals at about like the 45-minute mark, and then they kind of become rejuvenated because all that really hot cherried coal is exposed to the actual bowl. There's no buffer of ash, and you get a good 15 minutes that way, but after that point, when you get that little film going, the coals are pretty much done at that point. You really need to have new coals on deck if you want to keep your bowl burning consistently, because as we all know, it's not the best thing in the world to cool down a bowl and then heat it back up, especially when you're working with a blonde. But yeah, you get about an hour as far as the burn time goes. Moving on to our next topic. This is probably the least important topic, but I figured we should go over it anyway, and that's going to be durability. Okay, so when I say durability of the coal, I don't mean that I'm gonna like throw it at something hard and tell you if it breaks, because spoiler alert, almost no flat or cube that's worth its salt is going to break if you throw it against a hard surface. It is compressed coconut that's been like compressed down into charcoal form. It's pretty sturdy when it's not lit up. What I'm talking about when I say durability is you put it on the burner. We've probably all had this happen. You put a flat on the burner, you let it cook halfway, you flip it, and one of your coals like splits like a hamburger. Like the top end and the bottom end, they kind of split for whatever reason. That's what titaniums do. I get about 3 to 4 of them in a box that will do this. I don't know if it's a batch issue, but it's been pretty consistent from all the 3 kilo boxes of titanium that I have purchased. So talking about durability in that context when it comes to these coals, I haven't seen a single Prestige coal break. Now given I've got a much smaller sample size than I have titaniums, because that is my daily coal, I can pick them up at a very good rate locally here, so that's what I smoke on usually. But out of the entire box that I've smoked of these Prestige coconut jumbo flats, I have not had a single one break on me, which is just great. So take that for what it's worth. It's probably one of the least important things that we would judge these coals on, because even if a coal has a durability issue, it's probably like a very small percentage of coals in the box that actually break, but I haven't seen that happen at all with the Prestige jumbo flats, so keep that in mind. Moving on to the next and final topic that we're going to be going over on these coals, and that is going to be the cut of the coal. Now normally I do like a cool picture-in-picture thing with editing, but I really want to get this video out. I've been procrastinating this video because I've been a little bit stressed about actually putting a coal review out. But we're going to look at one of these. I'm not going to get a huge sample size because these are all cut roughly the same, but I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to have to do some camera lens work. There we go. So that's about as close as I'm able to get it with this current lens. But you can see that it's pretty uniform. They aren't really any bigger than a normal flat, which is kind of weird considering they're called jumbo flats, but I think that's referring to how much coal is actually in the flat as opposed to the size of the flat itself. Like I said, these weigh roughly 1.5 grams, 2 grams heavier than most of your normal flats on the market. But what you can expect with the cut is it's got a few chips, which is normal, it's just a coal. But you got a smooth side, a smooth side, a smooth side, and a smooth side, and then almost every single coal, you've got 2 rough sides. Which is not an issue, it's just something I wanted to point out. But as far as the cut goes, they're pretty uniform and they're durable, so that's another one of those negligible things, because as long as it functions properly, the cut is pretty unimportant. But I figured maybe someone wanted to see that, so there it is. That's going to be the cut of the coal. Okay, hopefully this is in focus. I've messed with the lens, which is very bad with this particular camera if you're trying to make sure you stay in focus. I've been out of focus at some point to this video. That's not what's important. What's important is that those are all the topics that I wanted to go over. Like I was saying before, if there's anything more you'd let me go over in future coal reviews, which I do plan to do because I want to get good at it, because not a lot of reviewers do them, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to get to anything I didn't get to in this video. Now, in terms of how am I going to rate this coal, like I said, I'm not going to use a number scale because I think that might be a little bit convoluted, a little bit misleading. It doesn't really make sense. Most of the stuff's subjective, and the subjective stuff is, it's really going to vary from person to person. I can't honestly give you like a 6 out of 7 or a 4 out of 7 or whatever it is, because to me it just doesn't make sense to grade them that way. Now fortunately, what I can do is tell you whether I think these are worth picking up or not picking up. And just so you guys know, I'm not going to be taking price point into consideration when I tell you guys whether these are worth picking up, because they're comparable with all the other coals in the market, and I don't think that, as long as they're reasonably priced, which they are, I don't think that should go into grading how good a coal is. What I'm going to tell you is I think that if you're in the market for a coal that lasts longer than a normal flat, and a coal that burns at a higher temperature than something like, say, a titanium, you should absolutely pick up at least a box of these Prestige jumbo flats just to try out. I've been talking about a lot of coals. Hopefully I haven't messed that name up at all in this video. I probably have. That would suck. But yeah, they've got a decent burn time, which is kind of negligible, but if you are worried about burn time, maybe you're smoking every day, maybe your friends are coming over, hell, maybe you're a lounge owner, that's something to keep in mind. If you're a lounge owner, your burner's probably always going, so you can get it down to the 8 or 9 minute mark, and you're probably cooking more than 3 flats at a time. But they have a decent burn time. They're durable for whatever that's worth. They don't smell that much for whatever that's worth. But the heat output, the ash content, how long they burn for, all that stuff is great. I would definitely consider picking these up. I will personally be picking them in the future. I want to thank you, Edmund, from over at Prestige coconut coal, whatever the entire name of your company is. Sorry, I don't have any of my information in front of me right now. But he actually sent these out for review, and I've done a review. And if you're not looking for a coal that burns hotter than something like, say, a titanium, stay away from these because they do have a higher heat output, and you will end up charring your bowls if you try to treat them the same way you would treat a titanium flat or something comparable to that coal. Okay, that was very stressful for me. Could you guys tell? Because I could tell. I'm sitting over here trying not to sweat. Doesn't help that I'm sitting right next to the hot bowl. The burner was just on. The AC is off to cut background noise. There's still background noise because the fridge is back there. This is poorly planned. But before I let you guys off the hook, I wanted to let you guys know that I do have merch available. Holy crap, the guy on YouTube makes merch. Typical. But if you guys want to go over to Teespring, link in the description. I've got some really cool t-shirts and some cool hoodies, just my logo on it. And the t-shirts are like $10 and the hoodies are, I can't even remember, you have to check. But you know, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to rep Pipe Dream Hookah, do it. Buy those shirts. And if you don't want to buy my shirts and you just want to watch my content, please do that as well, because I don't buy everyone's merch either. That should just about do it for this video review on the Prestige Jumbo Flat. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, happy smoking.